Welcome to Live from My Drum Room. My guest is Jerry Speiser, original drummer and founding member of the Grammy Award-winning band Men at Work. To say this band from down under took the world by storm would be an understatement. You couldn't turn on the radio or MTV without hearing or seeing Men at Work. Jerry's drumming was a key ingredient to Men at Work's unique sound and overall success. And in this episode, we do a deep dive into Jerry's stellar drumming on their first two records, Business as Usual and Cargo, and much more. So come along for the ride and please welcome the great Jerry Speiser. Jerry, welcome. It's great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, John.
Thanks for making time to do this. And I was telling the audience before I brought you on that, the time difference. So thank you for accommodating the creativity of us making this work for our time zones.
Yeah, not a problem. I'm an early riser.
Well, that's great. Me too. And it's so great to see you. It's so great to connect with you again, and we talked a little bit off the air, and we've got a lot of folks watching, I'll tell you right now, and not surprisingly, people are excited to see you and hear from you. But we met when I was working at Drum Workshop, and you had started Tom Trading, and you were importing Drum Workshop, and I have fond memories of you calling me, and and probably not being very happy with me because you were always we could never deliver the product. If you remember, we were always, weeks or months back ordered. So
yeah.
But whenever I'd see you at the NAMM show, it was always a pleasure to see you, and we'd have a lot of laughs together. So Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure.
Yeah. But we're gonna talk today about, the impact you made, and you're a big part of drumming history. I think more often than not, when I talk to drummers about you and about, your contribution to Men at Work, I think you probably don't realize the impact that you've made on drummers and just how much it resonates with people, especially me. I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, just to kind of step backwards for a second.
Yeah.
How old were you when you started playing? Like what kind of background do you have to what got you playing the drums?
Well, my sister went to a local primary school. She's a few years older than me, and we didn't live far away. And in those days, there was a marching band that played every morning. It was just drums, a few drums, and a bass drum, and they'd play for the kids to march into school in the mornings, and I could hear them from where we lived. And I would pick up a couple of twigs from the backyard, and I'd sit on the back porch. This is when I was about 4 years old.
Oh man!
And I'd be sitting on the back porch, on the concrete porch, and just playing along with the drums that I could hear. So when I started primary school, I hassled my mum to get lessons, because every week there was a drum teacher that would come, and this is for years like 4, 5, and 6, not for year 1. But she went and asked if I could join in on the lessons, and they said okay. So every Wednesday morning, and it was like 10 cents. It cost 10 cents, which is like a dime, and there'd be like about 20 kids lined up on the walls of the shelter shed. What they had, like a shelter shed, if it rained, or where kids could sort of hang out to have lunch and stuff, and play on the walls. And so they said okay. So I had lessons, and then when I was in year 4, I was a part of the band.
Wow.
And then in year 5 and 6, I was actually the leader of the band in those last 2 years. So that's how I started. But I didn't have a drum kit till I was like about 15
Were you
years
playing
old.
snare drum in the band? Were you playing mainly
Yeah,
snare?
I was playing snare and playing traditional style, because the drums were on an angle.
Yeah.
So it was like marching drums. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those deep things. And I didn't really know much about drums, but I just loved to play. And I did get a snare drum eventually, like in my, when I was about 12. Oh, so then I actually did get one snare drum with this piece with a cymbal, which was just like a circular piece of tin. It wasn't really
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
cymbal,
Wow.
but
So this would have
yeah,
been like in the early 60s, like probably late 50s.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I was
And
born in 53, so I'm 72 years old
yeah.
now.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
so yeah, six, well, yeah, it would have been 10, 12 years old. Yeah.
Were there bands that were like, here in the States, of course, you hear people talk about how the Beatles were such a big influence in the early 60s with a lot
Yeah.
of kids. Were there bands there that you saw on TV, on television that had an impact on you too? And like, or American bands or Australian bands or?
There was a lot of American and English music that was being played on the radio, but that's on the radio and records being released. TV, there was hardly anything on TV
Mm,
musically at that time. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
But,
Yeah. Just
mm,
yeah, it's very interesting because, you're from that sort of era where like, the Beatles definitely had an impact on. I'm a little bit younger than you, but people our age, that was such an impactful thing with them being on the television in the early '60s. But
well,
no, that's
television came a little bit later, I think, into Australia. But
yeah,
there was it was like there were two camps. There was the Beatles fans and there was the Rolling Stones. And
yes,
there's, that was the the conflict in a way, between tastes of music, whereas, Beatles, of course, having a little bit more sophistication
hmm
and
yeah,
and
yeah.
the Rolling Stones being your raw energy. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So fast forwarding a little bit, you
Yeah.
started playing drums and you started playing in bands and I think if I understand correctly, you kind of met the guys in Men at Work or some of them like in college, like after.
At university, I met Colin Hay.
Yeah. Yep.
We were sitting on a bench, like in this sort of area there, and eating. We're both eating a salad roll, and we just started talking. And I
That's
said
fun.
that I was in a band and we're looking for a singer, and he said he was a singer looking for a band. So I said you should come and audition, and if you like us and we like you, well, you know, it's
Wow.
we're in. But that was 2 years before Men at Work
Yeah.
started, because I so he joined that band, and we did, I think, about 3 gigs, and then it disintegrated for some reason, and then but I knew I wanted to play with Colin, and it was like a mutual thing with Colin, and he was playing. He met up with Rono, the other guitarist, Ron Stryker, in Men at Work, and they started playing as a duo at this pub called the Cricketers Arms Hotel. But they were playing acoustic guitars. And I knew that Colin wanted to get into playing electric. So they actually both got electric guitars and amps, and they were sort of working at playing
I see.
electric. And then about 2 years down the track, I was still playing with some of the guys that were in that first band that Colin joined, and then there was I was living in a house with these other musicians, and then they all became born again Christians, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but then they decided that they didn't want to do this band anymore. So on the same day as that happened, I went over to Colin a few suburbs away where I knew where he lived, and I said, "Well, do you want to do something?" So that was like the beginning of Men at Work. That was me and Rono
Wow.
and Colin. Yeah.
That's great. Wow. And I guess, and maybe even just stepping back a little bit, you like as a teenager and through like high school and in school, you were in bands, you had sort of you'd
Yeah,
been bitten by the bug as a drummer, and yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, as
yeah,
soon as I had a drum kit, there was a group of guys just in the neighborhood, and it was
yeah.
pretty funny because it was like every weekend we would go and practice at someone's house, and it was like a shopping trolley or skateboard or something, and the neighbors would see us sort of going down the street to go to a rehearsal and probably thinking, oh, fantastic, they're going somewhere else today, you know. And,
That's so fun. And who were some of the drummers you listened to as a young, as a young player? Who are some of the guys that influenced you?
well, the first drummers that I listened to were jazz drummers because my father was a bit of an audiophile. Like we were the first house in the street to have stereo, like
Wow.
two speakers.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
he had a ridiculous collection of records. And so he thought that because I was playing, he would get me records of drummers like Louis Bellson and Gene Krupa and that sort of thing. So they were the first drummers that I listened to. But then basically I would think that the two main influences of drummers was Richie Hayward from Little Feat,
yeah,
who so I just thought he was just amazing, and Phil Collins that I used to listen to. But that's before Phil Collins was Phil Collins.
yeah,
It's
yeah, yep,
because he played in a band called Brand X
yes,
uh, before he played with the Genesis. So it was
mm,
more like when he was in Genesis that I sort of modeled sorry, modeled my playing on Phil Collins and Richie Hayward, which
yeah.
I would say.
Two really really great role models for for drummers for sure.
Mm.
Did you ever have a chance to meet Richie or Phil?
No,
No.
no, no,
Okay.
never.
I
I would have loved to have
yeah.
met them. Yeah. Mm.
Because Richie, I used to see him at the NAMM show, and knowing that went a number of times, I didn't know if you'd ever, cross. I didn't know him well, but he was such a approachable,
Yeah.
nice person, and
I,
what a
I
drummer.
bumped into Liberty DeVito a couple of times at NAM,
Yeah,
who played with Billy Joel. So that was
yeah.
nice.
He,
Yeah.
he's another great drummer. But man,
Mm.
yeah. So I've always been curious, like the origins of Men at Work, and I knew a little bit of what you mentioned about you and Colin sort of meeting at university and kind of deciding to team up, and was it like a lot of bands, like you guys started playing gigs and like playing covers, other people's songs, and then working in your own songs and like doing gigs that way, or did you just immediately just start writing songs and at work at getting a record deal?
Well, it was pretty much just starting playing original songs. I
It
don't
it
remember
was.
ever playing covers with those guys.
Yeah.
When I finished uni, I did a science degree and majored in physics, and then
Mm,
thought, well, now I'm going to do what I want to do and play music. So I went to what was called Melbourne State College, which really was a teacher's college, but that was the only place I could learn music, to study tertiary music without going to the conservatorium. But that's sort of was a bit stuffy place to go. So this was sort of the new thing. And that's where I met Greg Ham,
mm-hmm.
because I was playing in a performance group. That funny thing was that Colin had met Greg Ham independently. And so we actually started when we started, Rono decided to play bass so that we could play. But what was interesting is what happened was this is in about May 1979. That's when we started rehearsing. So there was the Cricketers Arms gig that Colin and Ron would play at as a duo,
Mm-hmm.
and they were writing. It was almost like a Lennon McCartney thing was going on with Colin and Ron, because they were writing a lot of songs, and they told the proprietor of the Cricketers Arms, which is this guy called John Taylor. They basically said, "Oh, we're going to not going to play anymore because we're getting a band together. And John Taylor said, well, when you get your band together, come and play here. Like, so it's like the band had a gig before we had a repertoire. So
Yeah, yeah.
that was really cool. So as soon as we got enough songs together, we started playing at the Cricketers Arms Hotel, and that was how we kicked it off. Yeah.
And did you play there kind of regularly and build a following, or just
We played every Thursday night
yeah,
for about a year and a half, and it got to the point where people were queuing up outside, or there was such a small venue
yeah.
anyhow. So and then people would just hang outside and listen, and yeah, it
And you
was.
were
And
playing,
then we got other residencies. We were really, it was really men at work. Like we'd have a Tuesday gig in Carlton, a Wednesday gig in Frankston, the Thursday gig in Richmond. These are all suburbs of Melbourne. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And you were like at that time you were playing material that would be on the first record on Business as Usual, like you were kind
Yeah.
of writing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I asked if. Sorry, go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, we were playing Down Under. Down Under was being played like from the get-go. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I was curious because I didn't know if like some other bands where you were like playing gigs and in the States, for example, some bands have to play covers to get the gigs, and then they work in their kind of a few original songs, and then they transform into more of an original. But you guys did it
Yeah.
really really the right way in terms of like being known as an original band with your own music and your own sound and your own unique personality. And so were you the parts that you came up with, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. I'm going to play some of the songs, and your parts were still to this day, all these years later, so creative and so, yeah, they're so great, man. I'm telling, I speak for all the drummers watching this right now. And I tell you, you made such an impact on me and so many people. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just curious, like was there like an evolution? Did you try different things? Like when you guys were playing your gigs, you said, I'm going to try playing it just with the bass drum on 1 and 3, or, I mean, like so much of what you play is different from what you hear other people play. I'm just curious how you came to that
Yeah. Okay.
approach.
Well, very happy to give you some insight into that if that's
Yeah.
what it is. But just before that, just going back a second with in terms of playing original music, Melbourne is such a creative city. And live music was huge in Melbourne, and there were many bands all playing original music. That was a thing. It was like no one was interested in covers.
Mm,
Like
mm.
there were a couple of cover band like hotels that would just have cover bands, but it's quite incredible the amount of original bands that were playing in Melbourne. The music scene was crazy, It was
Yeah.
almost like a revolution of sorts. And
Well, that's what a great time to be there, to be part of that.
yeah, it's almost like, you hear stories about the music that happened in Berlin in earlier days and how it was you could on any one night you could go to about a dozen different hotels, see the most current original bands. It was extraordinary. But as far as my drumming, I was pretty lucky. I had lots of. I'd always have as many lessons. I wanted to learn as much as I could, and I had one teacher that was just very insistent on me learning all the different drum bit drum patterns. Like he would teach me sambas and mamba and the beguine and the bossa nova and the
Mm.
cha-cha-cha and the foxtrot and all of these other feels, so that I had that in as an inventory. I mean, the first things that I really got into, like before Men at Work, was more like jazz rock, like Steely Dan type music, and
Mhm.
so I was right into that type of thing. So when it came to playing rock and roll, in a way, I still had all of those that inventory
Yeah,
of
yeah.
patterns that I would bring into the music. So that was one thing. And then I guess what I tried to be melodic
Mm,
in my drumming. You know,
absolutely.
like, but that was an influence also with, I guess, with the Beatles. It's
I made a note, in fact, Jerry, that
yeah,
melodic. Yeah, I think of your playing as so melodic, and I just want to say something. What you said is very interesting because your feel. I made all these notes. I mean, your feel is like, and as a drummer, and I know that it's not just something you can wake up one day and decide I'm going to have a great feel. I mean, I believe me, I tried it, and it doesn't work that way.
Mm.
But you
Yeah,
have you. It sounds to me that you just have you're one of those guys that has such a natural great feel, like all those songs just they feel so friggin' great, man. And
mm,
all these years later they feel every bit as great, like they and they just have a lift, a natural lift to them. They never feel stiff. Or so it's interesting, your background was more maybe jazz, but you were able to really adapt to playing that with a rock feel, with that more
yeah,
kind of, rock feel.
yeah. Well, it's about being. I always thought of being somehow musical. Like
Yeah.
that every instrument should be able to stand in its own right. Like if you totally soloed the drums, that they would still sound musical. And I think that comes from learning other beats.
Yeah.
Like if the Latin feels, to sort of make them have a groove, and want to make you get up and or just even move to it. And so that was the what I wanted to do with in the rock environment. But I think as far as the records go, the Men at Work, the first two albums that Peter McKeon produced, I put a lot of credit for really actually bringing out the best of me. I think of a producer, it's like a director in a play,
Mhm.
to sort of say, I'd try doing a bit more of this or less of that or whatever. And he was fantastic with the drums, and he paid so much attention to getting a good sound from the drums. Yeah, but
I made a note of Peter, and I also made a note of, I saw that Jim Barber was also listed as an engineer, but was Peter more of the main engineer as far as this getting your drum sound for the
yeah,
records? He was.
absolutely. Yeah,
Okay. Then yeah, man,
yeah.
what
He
I mean,
he was so technically knowledgeable, and so if he would explain what he wanted, and if he didn't, he'd get on the desk himself and do what he needed to do. Yeah.
the drums.
But then
Um,
it's also I would pay a lot of attention to my tuning as well. People would think I was a nut, like in terms of how much time I spent tuning the drums, because I guess it's part of my physics background as well, because
yeah.
it's like, and I've done talks on tuning drums, and like it's about getting the shell to resonate.
Right.
You think of pipe organs, like they're just tubes, but they have their resonance, So I would sort of talk about tuning drums, and I would say to talk about the resonant frequency. It's like the frequency that's living in that in
Yes.
that shell, you know, and um
Absolutely.
and try and tune it so you can let that sound out. So if you can get the drums tuned right, you can get them to explode really.
Did
And it was funny because when we would do Men at Work tours, when we toured, people would go up to the desk and to talk to Mark Woods, who was our front of house guy, and they'd say, what have you done to the drums? How did you get that sound? And they have a look, and they're all flat. There's no,
Yeah,
there's no
that's
boost or cuts. It's just flat. So yeah.
that says a lot. That says a lot about you. Yeah, I mean,
Mm,
your ears, and that's fascinating to me. That's a big part
mm,
of what I want to talk about too. Your drum sound, and you've
mm,
already answered a lot of that. But
mm.
I see pictures of you using what looks to be coated ambassador heads on top and maybe on the bottoms as well, ambassador
Yeah.
coated. That was kind of was that what you used on the record in the studio too? I think I've seen live pictures. Let me see. Great
Yeah. Well, I
photographer
used
friend.
ambassadors, coated heads, because I liked, not on the snare drum though. Oh, whoops.
Yep.
Oh,
Can you? Yeah, there's a
okay.
picture. This is from a photographer named Lissa Wales who shot you in. She's from Phoenix, was from
Yeah.
Phoenix, and this would have been in
Okay.
the early '80s. Handsome, handsome devil that you still are in that
Yeah.
picture.
Yeah. God. Jeez. Thank
Uh,
you.
yeah, yeah. No, but I'm just curious. Yeah, like what did you
Well,
have a or
yeah, go on. Sorry.
no? I was going to ask you if you have a, a basic formula of how different you tune top and bottom heads in terms of tension. Like, is the bottom a little tighter than the top, or are they about the same tension to get the sound you get from the toms?
I'd never have the bottom head higher, tighter. I'd try and get it pretty much the same, or possibly a little bit lower, because that was, if they're it's like the bottom head creates the aftertone.
Right.
So if it's higher, it would go boom. You'd have you'd hear a rise,
Hmm.
and if it's lower, you hear a doom. Like it would go down. So I prefer the down side, or just even to have it even.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it
Um,
wasn't sort of that. It was more about getting it just right, so the sound would explode, or just to get the right frequency for the shell,
yeah.
for
Yeah.
whatever the shell size was.
Right out of the gate, when I first heard here in the States, we didn't get the first record until the early 1982, but I know it was released in 81 in Australia.
Yeah.
But I can't remember if I heard the song on the radio or seeing you on MTV, which had just, as you remember, had just come out in 1981. And going to talk about that too, because you guys were such a mainstay on MTV. I mean, you couldn't turn on MTV for more than a half hour without seeing a video of you guys, which
Yeah.
which must have been great for you. I mean, in terms of getting the record out there. But
Yeah.
the point I was going to make is I remember the first time I heard or watched you on TV do "Who Can It Be Now," the drum sound, and I can only describe it, Jerry, as like the drum sounds so isolated, but in a good way. Like the snare drum especially sounded like it was its own island within the song. Do you know what I mean? It like its own instrument. It was so clean. And your tom fills too. They were all so clean and and perfect. And I'm just curious. That's one thing I was going to mention. And I'm just curious. Did you play? You were playing Pearl drums and
Yeah.
Sabian cymbals. Were you using Pearl in the studio at that time?
Yeah. Pretty much the same kit that
Okay.
you showed a picture of before. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that was a Pearl drum kit.
Yeah.
And
Maple shells,
yeah,
it says on there. Yeah.
yeah.
And that
Mm.
looks like, is it like a 10, 12, 13,
Oh
22 inch bass
God.
drums? Yeah. That's all right. Just
Mm.
curious. Again, great
Yeah,
tuning.
probably. Yeah, look, I think I was an 8 there as well. I think I had 8, 10, 12, 13. Might have been a 14,
Yeah,
and a
maybe you're right there.
16 inch floor tom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
Yeah. There we go. Okay. And on the record though, I'm just curious, just the timing of like when Sabian they sort of hit right around the time you guys came out, and I didn't know if you'd actually used them on that record or if maybe they were Zildjian or Paiste or something else, if you remember.
Pretty much all Sabian.
They were, yeah.
I really thought they were fantastic cymbals, and yeah,
They sound great. They
but
sound really.
yeah, well, the sounds, the sounds that how you're describing the sounds was very much to do with Peter McKeon, the producer. He had his way. Like there were gates on every part of
Okay.
the drum, and then he would do things like there were six overheads. You know, like he'd have what would be, like at the front, and then he'd had overheads, a couple of meters behind, like, and that was really for for to get the cymbals. But
Yeah.
he wrote a book about recording
Oh,
and
okay.
the drums, and I think he talks about his technique in there. But he was, I owe a lot to Peter McKeon, but I guess it's a combination of us both because we I gave him good material to work with.
Yes, you did. No, I was going to say you definitely have to take credit because like you say, he can get the sounds, but you have to be the one to execute it, and it's
Yeah.
interesting. I wondered if the drums were gated, but they don't sound when I think of, like when we think of Phil Collins in the 80s with Genesis, as you mentioned, or solo, I think of those, those types of like really heavily gated sounds, but the gates that he used, I guess, really are maybe more subtle than what a lot of people producers were
Yeah.
doing at that time.
Yeah. Well, other producers like the Phil Collins sounds, it sounds like too more processed,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
his were like a more natural to get the natural sound out, which probably had something to do with my tuning there as well. But it was funny because he had all these little tricks, because we're using 2-inch tape here. It's not this is in the tape days,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
digital. And he would recalibrate the tape machines so that they could basically saturate the tape. So he would have it all recalibrated so that when it went to the red, he knew he was getting like an extra 2 or 3 dB out of it. So he would basically want to saturate the tape to just before distortion.
I see.
And
Yeah.
and then even, playing the snare drum, like I'm hitting the shit out of the thing. And he would say, Jerry, can you hit your snare drum a bit harder? And I'm going, you got to be kidding, that's ridiculous, what? And then he goes, oh, maybe use the butt end of the stick, and I go,
Wow.
okay, I'll use the butt end. So but
Wow.
then I thought that would be a bit weird because then it would sort of doing fills and that it might affect that. But anyhow, we made it work. But
Yeah.
talking about who can it be now, I've got a couple of interesting stories around that. Is so as you know, as a drummer, when there's the lyric that talks about knocking or a gun or
Yeah.
you sort of you do something on the snare to emulate that thing. And it's like as young drummers we go, oh, I'll throw in a little this or that, and so I was doing with that, who can it be knocking at my door,
That.
that
Yeah.
yeah, I just did that sort of once, I think later on in the song somewhere, thinking I'll throw that in, and some people will notice, some people won't, it doesn't matter, but for me it's fun. And so Peter goes, Jerry, when you do that knock 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 thing, and I'm going, oh, here we go, he's going to say don't do it. And he goes, I want you to do that every time, you know. So the
Yeah.
band, we're all looking at each other going, you got to be kidding. How corny is that? And then it was pretty interesting because then, a couple of years down the track and we're doing some concert, with 30,000 people, and it's Who Can It Be knocking at my door, and the whole audience sort of go bang, 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 with their arms in the air, and it's like it's a rush,
It
and
must have been. Yeah.
yeah, and then it's like, oh God, he said it was a hook, don't he said it's a hook, just
Yeah.
go with it, and he was certainly right there. So
Um,
another interesting thing about Who Can It Be Now is it's two takes spliced, 2-inch spliced in the middle of the song.
wow.
So
Okay.
and we didn't use a click track at
Okay.
all. So
I had
it
that
was
question. Yeah.
it was there's only one song on the first two albums that we used a click track, and
High,
I think hmm,
high wire. Was it high wire? No.
no
No. Okay.
no.
No.
I think it was Blue for You. I can't even remember.
Well,
Yeah.
I didn't detect it. I wondered if if you used a click track because it doesn't have that. It has such an organic, really great feel to it. It doesn't feel like it's stiff or anything, as I said before. Which, as we both know, great drummers like yourself can play to a click and certainly have it feel natural. But it's nice to know that it's that organic and it's just you. But so tell the story. So two parts of Who Can It Be Now are spliced together, two different
Well,
takes.
from two takes. It's
Yeah,
just from listening back, you go, okay, that's really solid. That first half of that take and the second half of the other take was solid. So they chopped it up.
put it
Yeah.
together that way. Um,
Yeah.
Well, you touched on something. What I'd made a note too, also about the that section in Who Can It Be Now, because it is such a hook, and I'm sure you see this even today. Non-drummers, people that just know that song, that's become a thing. Everybody knows that part of the song where they go bop bop bop. It's
Yeah,
he had great vision to recognize that. And good for you
that's right.
for putting that in there. The first time.
Yeah.
Well, should we play it? Let's give a listen to that song. So this is
Cool.
Who Can It Be Now?
Oh,
Business as usual.
yeah. So just to say something about this song, I think when we did the sound check, you played it, and that was great off the record because there's the version that's on YouTube. It messes up the beat. It goes
Yeah,
brum, whereas so I'm glad you're playing that one. And
absolutely. Yeah.
then there was what was the other thing I wanted to say? Yeah, I can't remember. It's all right. I'll tell you after.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe this will jog your memory when you hear it.
Yeah.
All right. This is such a great song. Here it comes. Who Can It Be Now?
Who can it be knocking at my door? Go away, don't come round here no more. Can't you see that it's late at night? I'm very tired and I'm not feeling right. All I wish is to be alone. Stay away, don't you invade my home. Best off if you hang outside. Don't come in, I'll only run and hide. Who can it be now? 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 Who can it be knocking at my door? Make no sound, tiptoe across the floor. If he hears, he'll knock all day. I'll be trapped, and here I'll have to stay. I've done no harm, I keep to myself. There's nothing wrong with my state of mental health. I like it here with my childhood friend. Here they come, those feelings again. Who can it
Great sound.
be now? Who can it be now? It's not the future that I can see. It's just my fantasy.
Man, that snare drum. Little hint of the next song. Jerry, just, man, you've got to be so, you have to be so proud of your work. Yeah, man.
Yeah, I am in that. It's pretty good. I always the thing I was going to say is in the solo,
Yeah.
the sax solo.
Yeah.
It's like there was when we were recording that section. It was like I can remember the room, the lights, it was like because there was no solo playing. We were just it was just the rhythm
Basic tracks, yeah.
And I think it was just the bass, drums, and one guitar, and I just it was like I had one of those moments, that magic moments. Like I remember the whole thing because we were so in the pocket, like more so than the rest of the song. There was something about just that solo section where it was because it was just this, when you experience playing with other players and you're in the pocket, like it's sort of pretty special. So that happened in that solo section of the song. Yeah,
that's great, man. What a great story. And when you say, are you referring to the guitar, that rhythm strum that we hear, that part? Because
that's the bass. The bass is playing. It's playing. I mean, maybe just play. Can you play that solo section again?
Sure, absolutely, yes. Yep.
That'd be cool. Wow.
I'll find it. Yep.
And while you're finding that, there's something else I wanted to mention also, because when you were talking about the fills. So what I would also do is I would try and mimic the phrasing of the vocals.
Yeah.
In the fills that I did. In terms of playing melodically.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't just sort of melodic, random, my own melody. It was sort of I would try and bounce off melodies that were in the song. Not that the drums would replicate exactly, but hint at it,
Absolutely, Jerry. I know exactly what you're referring to, and you can hear that on many of the songs you do that. In fact, on that song and Down Under, I feel like there's when you do those melodic fills are in conjunction with another part or a vocal, and but let's find. I'm gonna come back to Who Can It Be Now and hopefully find that middle section here. Let's see. Okay, here we go.
A bit late side section.
It's not the future
Say that again, Jerry.
that I can see.
This
It's
part right
after
here.
this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it is the bass. Yeah. Yeah. You guys are definitely locked in there. I mean, really locked in there.
Yeah, and I mean, John's a great bass player too. John's a great musician. John learned. He went to the conservatorium. He learned violin and piano. So he's a great musician.
Yeah, I mean, you can hear you guys worked so well together, as a rhythm section that just, just locked in and both have a great feel. I mean, that section right there is so, and when I was talking about the snare drum, I mean, and that section in particular too, you can just, I just love the space, you know what I mean? There's like so much space in there, but it just feels so great. It's got such a sparseness, but a fullness at the same time. And I loved, your restrained, for lack of a better word, on playing the bass drum on the 1 and the 3 only, just, not playing the standard boom, boom, sap, boom, boom, sap that me and a million other drummers would have played. You just played that boom, boom, it creates that space, that makes that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So there's something else about the solo. It's not drums, but the sax. You hear a squeak in the sax
Yes.
solo.
Yeah.
And it was very funny because I remember Greg coming in and listening back to that, and he was really kicking, like he was so down on himself because he um he, he squeaked in there, and he's going, "Oh, that shit house, I have to do it again." And Peter McKean's going, "No, it's great." Like he's saying it's a bit of character, and he actually did some, delay little thing on there or like extra bit of reverb or something. Like he sort of made a feature out of a mistake, and he was great like that to
That's a
pick up
great
on that.
producer. That's a great producer. And talking about your cymbals for one more second, I didn't want to move off of that too soon because you were using, and some of the other songs I'm going to play will hear this too, but your choice of like using nice thin fast cymbals, and at times you're playing splash cymbals where you might normally, I think they're splash cymbals where someone might play a crash cymbal. So again, just really creative, different approach to playing these songs that I think a lot of other drummers would have taken.
I sort of, without realizing it, I think I made that a bit of a signature thing of mine, where I'd use a splash at the beginning of a verse, just so there's a little bit of an explosion, of sound, but then it dies off really quickly.
Yeah.
But I used to drive the drum shops in Melbourne nuts, with me choosing cymbals, because I would, that, like I'd say, I'm coming in, I need a crash cymbal, and they say, what size? And I go, I don't know, like I want the one that sounds good,
Yeah, exactly.
whether it's a 16, 17 or 18 inch, I don't care. And I would try out every cymbal in the shop.
Yeah.
And I'd sort them, like to that, no good, possible, good. And just because I wanted the right sound, that really says something. And so I would pick cymbals, but I also would pick cymbals like depending on the songs. if it was a faster song, I always wanted a quick attack because
Mhm.
I thought a slow attack is sort of what's the point, like
Yeah. Yep.
you know. So I wanted slow rise time, like quick attack, but then the decay. Oh, that's right. And I would hit cymbals 2 times, like, go
Yeah. Yep.
so you can hear the second attack. Some cymbals you hit and the second hit straight after it's you don't sort of notice it. And
Right.
to do that, so choosing cymbals, and then I would have my fast song cymbals and my slow song cymbals, so that if it was a slower song, I would like a longer decay,
Absolutely. Yep.
so that there's something that sort of works in with the tempo of the
Yep.
song. Yeah.
This is great information for drummers. You're absolutely right. That is what you want. You want for a faster tempo song, you want a fast reacting cymbal, and just like you said too, you can't do those double hits that you do with anything heavier than a thin cymbal. You need fast, thin cymbals to react that quickly, which is what we hear, in these songs. And your intro to Down Under is a classic. And I played this song in a band, and I played in a cover band in the 1980s. And I had a set of rototoms, and I kind of figured out your sticking, the dig 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 it do dig it do 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 do. I'm a left-handed drummer, so I play that way. But it was it was always a fun thing to try to as best I could tip my hat to you. We played a lot of Men at Work songs, in fact, but we won't talk about that now. But I just this is such another great example of you playing these melodic fills and playing for the song, supporting the song so perfectly, so beautifully. Shall I play it,
and
or
that was recorded with in the video how there's the bottles at the start. That is actually what we did in the studio. We got bottles, and put water in them to get the nice tones and nice intervals.
Oh my God.
And played that. So it's the toms, but it's with bottles.
Yeah. Did you play the toms first and then overdub the bottles, or play the bottles and then
No,
wow.
the drums first. The bottles was someone has a sort of an idea and we go, oh, okay, that's that when bands do silly stuff. And
I wondered how you got that song. I mean, it's funny because the video is so great. I watched it recently, and you do it on the bottles, and then you just throw the sticks in the air and fall backwards or something, right? You just kind of like, but I always wondered, they sound like bottles, but is it just something that you're getting from a keyboard or some sampled sound, but they're actually bottles? So, well, that's great. Yeah. That's great. Well, here it comes. Here comes Down Under.
Okay.
Another really great, fun song.
Traveling in a fried-out combi on a hippie trailhead full of zombies. I met a strange lady. She made me nervous. She took me in and gave me breakfast. And she said, do you come from a land down under? Where women go and men wonder. Can't you hear that thunder? You better run, you better take cover.
Another great example, Jerry, and maybe you were thinking of this too, is you're playing fills that are doubling what the flute player is playing there too.
Yeah.
Great example of melodic playing, you know, where it's so tasteful. It's not overpowering. It's not overbearing. It doesn't get in the way of it, but it supports it perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
Well,
and
that's something. Go on, sorry.
no, I was just going to say too, and I made a note of this too. I don't know how else to explain it, but the way you break the fills up, the broken fills with the, you know, where you stick a splash crash in there in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a very Richie Hayward thing, actually.
I suppose, you know, I never thought of that, but I guess that could be a Richie Hayward influenced. Yeah. Yeah.
So, just as a say for drummers, you know, that maybe watching this, like as far as an attitude goes, like when I'm playing in a band, I try to be invisible,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like to provide a groove, but like to play in a way that makes what the others are playing sound better,
Yeah.
you know, because I'm playing with them, but to have an invisibility type of thing, don't have to be at the front, you know. Anyhow.
No, I totally get it. Yeah. Just supporting, you know, not getting in the way. Like, you know, what great drummers like, you know, Ringo and Hal Blaine and all these, you know, Charlie Watts would always say is that, you know, you're supporting the singer, the vocal, the overall track itself,
Yeah.
and you know, having a presence in the song, but not being in the way of anything else. Which, yeah, I think you know what you do is it's only supportive. It only just enhances. You know, as great as the songs are, it what you contributed really made them even better. I really mean that, and I really feel that way, and I think other people do as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll play a little bit, few more songs, maybe talk about some other songs.
Yeah.
Let's see. I want to just make sure I don't forget. We're jumping around quite a bit.
Okay.
Oh, I did want to ask you
Yeah.
if Peter did he use a lot of compression on the cymbals? Is some of that sound that we hear, you know, some which, you know, I know a lot of producers do use compression, like to get the splash to the way it sounds, or is that just the way it's recorded and he's just
I think that's just the way it's recorded. I don't think he was not like extreme with any processing, but he somehow had a knack of using just the right amount of you know, whatever effect he was using. He used
yeah.
a lot of harmonizers on the guitars, which was something. But yeah, no, nothing.
Okay. Yeah.
Not overly
Not
done.
overly. And they sound natural, you know, they sound like he's got them really hot in the mix. And you mentioned all the overhead mics and that explains it. That explains his technique to get the cymbals to be so present in the mix the way they are. So, yeah.
Well, that's one of the things when I listen to some songs or even seeing live bands, I think, oh my God, you know, I can't hear the cymbals like
Yeah.
or drummers that hit them lightly, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, hit the bloody things, you know, just give them a whack, you know, like
Yeah. Yeah.
they're
Yeah, you
there.
do.
Let's hear them, you know.
Right. Right. You do have to hit them to get them to open up, to get them to speak. You're right. You can't, you know, you've got to put a little something in them. So, well, let's play a song that I know was written for me. Be Good, Johnny.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
This is such a great song, and we'll play it. And maybe while we listen to it, if you can think of any little anecdotes you might want to share about this one. This is a really fun one. Lots of great drum fills too. Here we go.
by, Johnny. Don't you slip up or play the fool. Oh no more, oh no da, I'll be your golden boy. I will obey every golden rule. Get told by the teacher not to daydream, and told by my mother. Play football this year, John? No? Oh. You must be going to play cricket this year then, are you, Johnny?
It's open hi-hat.
Yeah. So tasty.
Sure
So
funny
tasty.
kid, Johnny.
And the cymbal grabs too.
So tell me, what kind of boy are you, John? I only like dreaming all the day long. When no one is screaming. Bigger, 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 bigger,
Yeah. This part right here.
Yeah.
You can kind of hear the gate there a little bit. If that
Yeah.
had to keep that drum fill in there, of course, that's best part of the song.
Yeah, and but that was interesting hearing the open hi-hat.
Yeah.
Those it's almost. I think that might have been a little bit of processing on that to
Yeah.
to get it to cut through like that. But McKean was very particular about EQing as well. He would spend a lot of time. And just another thing in terms of recording technique, he'd also the bass drum was always like enclosed, like there'd be have the microphone, but then it would be like a sleeping bag,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
wrapped around the bass drum and the microphone, so it was
Really
completely
isolated.
isolated. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that would account for it's just got such a great, direct, you're getting so much great punch and what am I trying to say?
Attack.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Attack and everything.
It's just clean. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was going to say too, the I don't know if you could hear me, I was over the track, but I always love those cymbal catches that you do, those cymbal grabs, those little, in certain places. Great song. Great song. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I'm going to play, I thought I'd play just a little bit of Down by the Sea.
Yeah.
And just get a little different flavor of just
it's an epic.
It's an epic. Yeah.
That was recorded at about 5 o'clock in the morning, or probably between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. and it's a 6 minute song and it's really slow and it's like there's so much time that to make a mistake, and so it was. Oh God, that was a night to remember recording that thing. Yeah,
I'll bet. Did it take a few takes? Did you have to
yeah,
do a few
yeah,
tries to
quite
get
a
it?
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you track this first record kind of in one go, like within a pretty short period of time, or did you have the, I won't say the luxury, but where you guys were kind of a new band, you probably didn't have that luxury of having a long
No,
time to do it, right?
no. Well, who can it be now? And the B side of that single, which was a song called "Anyone for Tennis," which
Mhm.
was an instrumental. I don't know if
I
you
don't
may
know the
not have
song.
even heard that. Yeah. So that was done at AAV. It's a studio in South Melbourne. So that was like just a couple of days, 2 or 3 days to do two songs, and then the rest of the album was done at a place called Richmond Recorders, and that was like over 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks to do those 9 tracks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
But all the songs were written ahead of time. None of the songs were written in the studio. You knew that everybody
Right.
knew the material pretty.
Yeah, we would have rehearsed the album. We would have had 2 weeks
Yeah.
in a rehearsal studio somewhere and worked the songs virtually till
Yeah.
to record, like it's pre-production, so they're ready to
Yeah.
record. But what it meant was that when we got to actually recording the songs, they'd be so easy to fine tune, there'd be, refinement in the studio, but it was like 95% done pre-production.
Yeah. Yeah. I figured as
And
much. Yeah. Yeah.
and then the other cool thing is that a lot of those songs had been sort of road tested as well. There's a lot of songs, you learn them and then you go out on the road and they evolve. They sort
Yeah.
of take on their own energy and they refine themselves in a sense just through repetition. But then in the studio, you can take it up a notch as well.
Yeah. Yep. It sounds that way. And when we started talking about this, I wondered that if I mean, I had assumed that you'd been playing them live. So when it came time to record them, everybody was comfortable and they were as sort of workshopped as they were going to be. Like, you'd
Yeah,
refined all your parts. You knew what you were going to play where, and
yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's
And
great.
then and there's that because you know the song so well, there's and being, creative musicians, there's also that room for a bit of, ad lib in the process too. A bit of magic can happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Well, that's great. Well, yeah, we'll play. We maybe won't play the entire song, but we'll play some of "Down by the Sea." And Jerry, you have a writing credit on this, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, then we have to play it. Okay. All right, here we go. "Down by the Sea," an epic, epic.
It is an epic. Yeah.
Yeah, here it comes. I hear a China
Yeah.
rivets, maybe.
Yes, it is. Yeah. It's two bass guitars.
I got to just say, Jerry, it's a pretty ridiculously great groove, man. Wow.
We overdosed on pleasure. Yanni's in the wind.
So Johnny
We're
is
again up for
like
winter.
stone.
I'm sorry, Jerry. Say that again.
Johnny's is sort of colloquial for stone, like throwing stones. Johnny's.
Yes.
Yeah. It's,
Down by the docks, leave all the silent sea ships, crates are stored on blocks.
so there's just that spot there.
Where now only the rats live.
So I didn't play the double beat in
Yeah.
there. Like there was great to leave space here and there in that sense.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much. Yeah. The space is what really makes it breathe the way it does. It just, yeah.
That's inspired by Phil Collins, that last Phil.
That Phil. Yeah. Let's, sorry we had that turned down.
Into the center, England come. Down on the beach,
And on the ride now.
saluting
Yeah.
Captain Benbow. Always out of reach. It's quiet when the tide's low. Climbing up the cliffs, you can see for miles far.
There's a,
Nice J work there, John.
yeah. There is a section coming up where I did want to, let me see if I can just cue it up in this.
Where I go a little bit silly.
Yeah. You know the part I'm talking about.
I found your hidden treasure. Just you and me. We overdosed on pleasure. Listen to your heart screaming at the sky.
Here it comes.
Can't you feel it trembling?
Big drum fill.
Don't you wonder why?
You know, Jerry, that's the thing that I remember when I first got hip to listening to you and listening to the band is, you know, on the surface, people might have thought you were not just a simple drummer, but I mean, it's so but it's so obvious you have a ton of chops. You know, when you play these, it's like you're playing for the song, you're playing just what you should be playing, you know, throughout the song. And then when you have your moment, you'd play those kinds of fills and be like, man, this guy is ridiculous. So no, it takes, my point is it takes, I think a lot of drummers a long time to understand that, you know, the sort of time and place to put those types of fills in, you know, where it works perfectly there. But if you'd done that earlier in the song when you had all that space, you know what I mean? It wouldn't have fit right. So.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's going with the energy of the song, you know, like that's that sort of orchestra, you know, thinking of, or in an orchestral way,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
where the mood of the song shifts. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, it's it's being a musician, and I think so much of it is like listening and just kind of instinctively knowing what's right and what's not right for the song. And it sounds like you had a great producer too that probably would have said, Jerry, I don't know if that's going to work in this spot, but it works here, but maybe not there or something. But yeah. But
Yeah.
so, yeah, just moving along here. Cargo came out about a year later in the States. It came out in '83. And I know
Yeah.
they're probably different, but I want to say, and I'm pretty sure that Business as Usual was still like on the charts, right? It was still like a top selling record when you released Cargo.
Yeah, well, that was an interesting, that whole situation there, because in those days, what happened in one territory was completely different to what happened in another. Like these days, someone releases a song and it's bang, it's all over the world
Yeah,
straight away. And so that was interesting because there was a bit of contention around whether Cargo should have been released as early as it was, because it needed to be released in Australia. It was because Business as Usual had been out for so long,
I see. Yeah,
and we in a way wanted it to be released, but there was another attitude, whereas let's let Business as Usual finish its normal sort of curve,
yeah.
and then release Cargo later. So yeah, that's right. It was probably released too early.
Well, I just remember when it came out, it was great that there was new music, but it seemed like the radio stations were still playing, all the hits from the first record, still heavily.
Yeah.
Like they were still every bit as popular and in rotation. And I think Be Good Johnny was the last single released in the States on Business as Usual. And I feel like that had only been out for a little while. And this is a long time ago.
Hadn't run its course, sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I get that too. I get that sometimes it's the record company. It's out of your hands. It's out of the band's hands, and it's the record company. Just they have that sort of control to do those things. But but I mean, if nothing else, it kept you guys out there. I have to say that it was
Yeah.
must have been a busy time.
There was we heard stories. I'm not sure what radio station it was, but Men at Work songs were on high rotation to the point where people got really sick of them, and they actually, there was one radio station that advertised they were having a non-Men at Work day.
Oh my God. Was that in the States or in Australia?
Yeah, not in Australia, in the States. Yeah, it was like,
I'm sorry.
people just needed a break,
Oh
It's
man.
crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's, like we talked about earlier too, you had MTV also, in a positive way doing your bidding, because, those videos were always some of the most fun videos to watch too. They're some of the most creative.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun doing them, but that was like the nature of the band, like we would just, like regular Aussies, just having a bit of fun, and
Yeah.
yeah. So, but the timing with MTV couldn't have been better. Like it was just perfect timing, and sort of in a way helped launch MTV, I think.
Yeah. I mean, MTV in the States, I remember it well. It was like the fall of 1981, September, October or something. And then, they were slowly making their way into all the different cable systems in the US. And I remember seeing it at home sometime toward the end of 1981. And you guys were your record, the Business as Usual, was released in the States in early '82. So the timing, as you say, was perfect. It was just like a perfect, synergy marriage of you two. Yeah. And I have to think too, were there songs that I don't imagine you, when you went to record Cargo, were any of the songs written with the idea of a video in mind, or I don't imagine you. No, it's you're writing for
No.
yeah.
It was for the music, and then it was like, okay, well, if we're going to do a video, then we start thinking about how that will work. But it was nothing was ever, as far as I know,
Yeah.
with videos in mind. Yeah.
I know some American bands, around that time or a little later, were so sort of connected to MTV that they would, songs would be sort of inspired by the idea of what the video could be. And that, to me, that was kind of, I don't know, I think a falling off point for a lot of music, I think, is when you're at that point and you're writing songs based on what the video is going to be versus the video being what the song is, But
Yeah.
yeah. But I could go on all day about it. But let's play something from Cargo. And I guess just as far as that record goes, was it a similar? It's the same producer, right? It's Peter.
Yeah.
McKean.
Peter
Yep.
McKean. Yeah.
McKean. And same. You're using the same drums, pretty much same kit, same.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It would have been exactly the same.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So just went in and had a winning formula. So you went in and were some of these songs written on the road when you guys were out doing the business, like touring on Business as Usual? Did some of those songs come together there, or did Colin
Well,
just?
there were some songs that we were playing as part of our show.
Yeah.
Probably most of them. I would think they were already written. There were no. I mean, Colin and Ron were prolific writers. So, and there was a backlog, So crazy thing is that we did Business as Usual, and then we had a record deal to do Business as Usual, and then it was like a wait and see what happened. But then I think that was for a couple of albums. But then because Business as Usual was so successful, we renegotiated our contract, and that was to do an album a year for the next 10 years.
Wow.
And then we did one album, and then the band disintegrated.
Yeah.
So it was, so that John and I were actually kicked out of the band. John, the bass player, and I is just, I wouldn't want to say it wasn't musical differences, but
yeah. It's
so that shit happens, and
exactly. Yeah. That's exactly it.
Unfortunate because we could have there were so many songs. There was a backlog of songs.
Yeah. But an album a year for 10 years that's a lot of pressure, though. Boy, that's a lot of pressure to keep, churning out hits and being on the road and But the two records that you put out that we're talking about that you're on are just, stand on their own. All these years later, they stand up and sound every bit as great today as they did then.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
yeah, hats off, Jerry. Yeah. Well, let's play this something from Cargo, this little song called Overkill. And maybe you can think about some anecdotes about this, but what I was going to say about this song is it's almost like it seemed like you guys all had the benefit of being so successful the first time with your first record and touring and sounding even better as a band, that it's like this song in particular has such a more mature sound, if that makes sense. Like, is that, you know what I mean? It's a really well crafted song. It's Yeah, it's just a amazing piece of work. You know, everybody, the entire band. It's a great
Yeah.
performance.
Well, I'm glad you picked Overkill because I had that written as there's one of my favorite fills that I
Yeah,
do is in Overkill. And it's a very simple fill. It's just a snare drum thing. And that's what I was going to say earlier, like, because I'm a fan of ZZ Top as well. Like, I love there and Frank Beard, like the drummer, his
yeah,
surname is Beard, and he's the only one that didn't have a beard. I thought that was, you know,
that's right. Yeah,
fantastic. But he would do the simplest fills on the snare, but just the perfect the
yeah,
perfect fill, and so anyhow, not that I was trying to emulate Frank Beard or anything, but it just happens to be that on Overkill is I think it's at the end of the solo coming into the last verse,
yeah.
something like.
When when Colin gets to, I can't get to sleep. That right at the end of that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's yeah. You're playing in the entire song is just again just so tasteful throughout. But I know that feel you're talking about, and we'll listen to this song now. So here's
Okay.
Overkill from Cargo and the great Jerry Speiser on drums, of course.
I can't get to sleep. I think about the implications of diving in too deep and possibly the complications, especially at night. I worry over situations. I know we'll be alright. Perhaps it's just an imagination. Day after day it reappears. Night after night my heartbeat shows the fear. Ghosts appear and fade away. Alone between the sheets only brings exasperation.
Groove is so
It's
solid.
time to walk the streets, smell the desperation. At least there's pretty lights, and though there's little variation, it nullifies the night from overkill. Day after day reappears. Night after night, my heartbeat shows the fear. Ghosts appear and fade away.
Beautiful, man. What a beautiful, beautiful song, and just an yeah, epic
Yeah, it's a
job.
good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to just talk about one more song, and I so appreciate it. I want to thank you again for being so generous with your time today, Jerry. Thank you for
Yeah,
doing this
no
today.
worries.
This is so great, and you know we could go on, but I did want to play some of High Wire because I always loved I just I love what you play in that song, and there's one spot in particular that I remember at the time hearing this song that it stuck out. And then when I started listening to these songs again, it refreshed my memory. And there's a fill that you play at 1:35. You know what I'm talking about, where it's an homage to Down Under. You play a tom fill that, do you know what I'm
Yes.
talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's,
Yeah.
at the time I remember hearing this, the guitar player that I play in a band with to this day, we played in a band 45 years ago. And we played some of these songs together then. So we were talking at band rehearsal yesterday about this. But I remember at the time hearing this song, thinking, that's so cool. I heard what he did there. That is one clever motherfucker. So anyway, but I didn't know if there was anything you wanted to add about Overkill before we move on from that, if there's anything that any recollections of recording that? Was it a pretty easy track to just pull together? Just everybody.
I think so. I think it had been well road tested, and so it was just interesting listening to it there, because then I was hearing how there's I'm doing just the kick on the one on the one,
Yeah.
and which it works nicely, and sort of, because you pointed it out earlier, so I do remember. I'd sort of forgotten really that those what feel that I was playing there, but I noticed that, and also it's nice when it goes. There's sections we go to the ride cymbal.
Yeah.
And it seems to work very, very nicely as well. Yeah.
It gives it like an airy sound when you do that, when you move off the hi-hat to the ride. Yeah. I meant to point that it has a nice sort of, more sort of airy sound to it. And, playing the bass drum, like you said too, for me, that's a really hard thing to do, is to refrain from playing more on the bass drum, even if it's a simple, eighth note type thing. It's to just play one beat like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's quite funny because, these days it's all in the kids, they got to have the double pedal,
Yeah.
And people are surprised when I don't have a double pedal. I'm saying I've had enough trouble playing one bass, let alone trying to go for two. You don't. It's sort of, I don't know. Anyway, at this age now, I'm not going to start learning double pedal pad stuff.
Well, I'm sure you were a fan of the great Jeff Porcaro.
Oh God, yeah.
One of my absolute favorites. And when I met you, when I worked for Drum Workshop in the 80s, I knew Jeff a little bit, and my boss, Don Lombardi, who I know you remember from Drum Workshop, Don had said to me, give Jeff a call and, see if he wants to try the new double pedal. We've got a new linkage system, and all the guys that were using the double pedals were digging it. And so, and I guess there was a history. He'd asked Jeff before, and Jeff had said no thanks to the double pedal. So anyway, I called him up, and we're having this conversation, and he said just what you said, Jerry. It's so funny. I said, well, we've got this new linkage, and it really is smooth, and it really feels great now, and playing double pedal. And he said, man, that voice. He said, man, I can't even play one pedal, man. I can barely play eighth notes with my left foot on the hi-hat. You expect me to play a double pedal, something like that. It was very funny. And then he just started laughing. And I knew to never ask him again if he wanted to try a double pedal. So, yeah. No, I think you do just fine with one bass drum, my friend. Just fine.
Yeah, who needs a double pedal if you're playing one bass drum beat in a bar? Yeah,
yeah, exactly. All right, well, let's play a little bit of High Wire, and
yeah.
yeah, and everybody listening at home, I'll point it out, but at about a minute and a half into it, Jerry plays this really great fill that you'll recognize as a great homage to Who Can It Be Now? I might have said Down Under before, but Who Can It Be Now? Yeah. Here it comes.
Feel so washed up today. Haven't really got much to say. Blood on the pillow of my bed explains the pain that's in my head. Sometimes I don't
Nice.
know which way to go. Sometimes I can't tell. But it's just as well, 'cause I'm walking on a high wire. High wire. I want someone let me in. I'm stinking and I'm full of gin. There's no need to close the doors so fast. I'm very fragile and not built to last. Sometimes I don't know which way to go. Sometimes I can't tell. But it's just as well, 'cause I'm walking on a high wire. Coming through the ring of fire. High wire. Have to pull it together. We're in for some stormy weather. Have to pull it together. We're in for some nasty.
Okay, everybody, get ready. Here comes the fill. Here it comes.
High wire.
I love it.
High wire. High wire. High wire. High wire.
Very clever. Very nicely done.
Yeah, it is down. It is down under, not Who Can It Be Now?
Yeah, it is. Okay, it is
You
down.
were
Yeah.
right the first time.
I was right
yeah.
the first time. Yes. I don't know. I think I wrote Who Can, yeah, it was Down Under. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do-do-do-do-do. Well, Jerry, thank you so much for being here today. And we had lots of people watching with lots of great comments. And this has been such an enjoyable treat for me. So thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm sorry it took so long to. I think John's been at me for about a year and finally got to do it. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. I know I was going to mention that. I think we first started talking about this about a year ago, but you've been busy and I know we can't talk about it in any detail, but there's going to be an announcement in maybe a couple of weeks about something you're working on, which is very
Yeah,
exciting.
on the 2nd of March, it's going to be announced. I'm doing a tour with some members from as the bands I told you about, like in those creative days of the 80s.
Yeah.
There's different members of some of the most successful bands in Australia that so and they're getting together and doing a tour, and I can't mention the bands or anything right now. I've been asked not to talk about it, but what I might do is when it's done, I'll send you a link
Okay, great.
to it
Yeah.
so that you could your listeners can check it out. So it's like, there'll be, because I'm in it, there'll be 3 or 4 Men at Work songs, and then from members from the other bands, there'll be 3 or 4 of that band.
Yeah.
It's sort of like it's the Countdown era. I don't know if you heard of Countdown was a music program back in the 80s that was on every weekend, very
I see,
popular
yeah.
music show, and so it's the baby boomers, that's the
Yeah.
demographic.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyhow, so I'm looking forward to that, to play with some sort of caliber players from the era.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. Yeah.
It'll be great, and you'll make it even greater, Jerry. Absolutely. You will. No, you will. And in fact, when this is going to go up on YouTube, so when that gets announced, whatever link you send me or links, I'll put in the YouTube notes so people can, 2 weeks from now, go back and look at this and find all that information out. So.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. And everybody, just a big hand for the great Jerry Speiser. I can say my old friend from almost 40 years, which is crazy to think, but yeah, what an honor to have you here today and a pleasure. Thank you, Jerry.
No worries. So just can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
I live in central Victoria in this town called Harcourt, and there's a friend that's got a studio. We had some big fires come through here,
Yeah.
and we had to evacuate from here. And luckily, our street wasn't affected. But where my friend has the studio, his house wasn't affected, but his studio burnt down.
Oh, man.
And I had my new DW drum kit in that studio.
Oh, boy.
So I lost that. I mean, it's more an inconvenience. It's a bummer, but I'm just glad no one was hurt and
Yeah.
their house was saved. But that's the times we live in,
It is. And I'm sorry about that, but I'm going to get on the phone with Don Lombardi when we're done and get you a new DW drum set. I'm going to.
All right. Thank you.
I'm going to get cracking on that. I'm going to say, Don, you owe me one.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah. All right. Okay. We'll talk, Jerry.
Fantastic. All right. Thanks a lot, John.
Thank you, Jerry. Hang with me if you would one moment. We'll end the live stream and we'll say goodbye in the Zoom room. But thank you, everybody, for watching today. And again, big hand for Jerry Speiser. And who can it be? It's Jerry Speiser. That's who it is. All right. Sorry, couldn't resist.
No, that's okay.
See you soon, everybody. Thanks for watching. All right, that's my show. If you enjoyed it, give it a like, leave me a comment, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can also download the episodes on all podcast platforms. And please visit my website, livefrommydrumroom.com, for upcoming shows and information on purchasing Live From My Drum Room t-shirts and hoodies. 100% of the proceeds go toward a scholarship I've created with the Percussive Arts Society. The link is also in the show notes. And you can contact me through my website or at livefrommydrumroom@gmail.com. And remember, no drummers are harmed on any show. And drummers, when in doubt, leave it out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll see you again real soon.